Hi, so I'm down here with Tech Talks and Jeremy Hyman. Jeremy, you work with professional associations, accounting and legal networks, alliances all over the world, and large firms. What's caught your eye in the world of technology this week?
There's a lot going on. It's the short answer to that.
We are in crazy times.
We are. We're getting less crazy, or maybe we're just becoming more used to it. I think something that I've noticed happening a bit is blending. I'm going to call it blending. Typically, professionals are very stalwart in what they do. Yeah, I am a tax consultant. I am a trusts lawyer, whatever it's going to be.
Well, they've worked hard for that. That's their qualification, isn't it? That's their accreditation. That's their identity.
It is, but that identity has come under threat over the past year or two, and the value proposition that the identity represented has become diminished. Because if you think about it, it used to be, right, Rob, you want some advice, come to my office, sit in my waiting room, sit in my boardroom, and it was all of a piece. Well, once that starts to get played with because of the events around the pandemic and what have you, you've got to ease up a bit in exactly what your professional persona is and quite what's going on. And I call that blending. And that blending means that obviously you don't lose your professionalism and you don't lose the stature, if you like, that you've attained through years of training and experience, but you've got to become better at delivering it and better at synchronizing with where your clients are at. That's kind of what I mean by blending.
It does make sense. And I suppose if we look for synonyms, we'd be talking about agility, flexibility, not getting wrapped up in one persona. So have you got some examples of how professional firms can blend a little bit better?
I think so. I think an obvious one, I suppose, is and it's coming to the fore now with a kind of a back to work mentality. It's blend with office workers. So if you are back in the office and working with your colleagues, it's a slightly different experience than it used to be. We've got a bit of distancing, we've got a bit more care, and remembering that. I've seen it now as I go back to physical meetings with clients. Do I shake hands? Do I bump elbows? Do I wave from a discrete distance? So it's just a slight change. So we've got to blend with our office workers. We've got to also blend with our home workers. So in every business that we consult with, there is a percentage of people that would really like to stay at home, right? Either permanently or for the majority of their week. And so we need technology that blends seamlessly between the office worker and the home worker, doesn't discriminate with either of them, and allows for the free flow of ideas, training, collaboration, what have you. And then I think also the third one, and maybe the most important one, is blend with clients, right? So well, yeah, you say of course. I wonder if it is of course. It ought to be. So I see, for example, firms who've said, right, we're going back to the office, but they haven't asked their clients whether their clients want to come into the office. Actually, maybe their clients never want to come into an office again. So we've got to fit in with them. We've got clients that very much want to be in the office, but the professionals want to be at home. So these are all blends that we need to learn to accommodate. And really, technology is a big part of how we do that right. Technology can bridge those gaps, and the appropriate technology to enable blending is pretty important.
Yeah, and when you talk to professional firms and ask them what their key challenges are, they tend to revolve around people and technology, don't they? So if they are going to be more effective in what they're doing and hold on to those clients, they do need to start to embrace this innovation, collaboration, this agility, this blending.
They do. And they also need to be a bit more confident in themselves. The thing that makes them a good accountant, a good lawyer, is their innate skill, ability, experience, capability of translating from technical speak to easy English or whatever language they're working in. It isn't about being in an office or not being in an office, or being at a client or not being at a client. And sometimes I think professionals need to work really hard to build that confidence in themselves when they are taken away from their natural environment.
Indeed. And have you seen any examples of the way companies have innovated and been more blended in their approach?
Yes, I think is the answer to that. We've seen, I'll give you an example of a business that we work with. It's an app called My Automate, which started life as a kind of a fuel price finding bit of software, so that you could look and find the cheapest place to buy fuel. Well, during the pandemic, people haven't been buying as much fuel. And so that platform has had to adapt and change to make it more about loyalty, the general journey, knowing about COVID awareness in particular areas, maybe giving promotions to members of the emergency services, So as a business, they adapted to the reality in which they found themselves and changed. Another one I was looking at recently was a company called hubxv.com, who've taken large sporting venues that are empty and made them available for day workers or for small office spaces, because people need a break from being at home, but their offices aren't open, and so they've monetized that space. So we've seen some quite clever ideas out in the market to adapt to this and to blend together ideas that weren't necessarily originally around.
And if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that there's no such thing as best practice anymore, because what worked last week, last year, last month doesn't necessarily work this month. So it's a blend, I guess, of what we knew and what we now know, what we've learned, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you've got to look at everything that has happened to us as an opportunity to adapt and to change, to be agile and to improve. It's happened, right? That's the big point. We are now blended. It's like baking a cake, right? The cake is now baked and it can't be unbaked. The question is whether or not we like the cake. I think that most firms have actually weathered the challenges of the pandemic really well. And what would be a shame would be not to take advantage of what's been learned through it and make the best of the future that's set out ahead of them now.
Yeah. And in closing, Jeremy, to blend properly in a professional firm is a blend of technology and culture, isn't it? And when you go in and advise professional organizations, you embrace these two aspects, don't you?
Absolutely. It's the best of technology and the best of people blended together.
Yeah, that's been great. Thanks so much, Jeremy.